Hey everybody, this is Stacy Rossetti. How are you? I want to say hi. I'm jumping on and I'm going to do a quick case study on a storage facility that I bought a couple of years ago. And I'm going to go through how I found it, how I funded it, how I'm running it. Now, I teach people how to get started in self storage investing. If you want to get into self storage investing, then you are in the right place because I have helped a lot of people over the last couple of years buy their very first storage facility or their next storage facility. We have students that have one facility, and we have students that have 9 facilities, which is very interesting to me. So I've been doing this now since 2020, and I've helped many students even just kind of just decide if this is an industry that they want to get into. And I would like to say first and foremost that storage for me is a blessing. I flipped homes from 2010 to 2015. I was a home flipper. That's what I did, and I got into the storage investing world when everything was kind of like I guess it was on an upturn. Was it a downturn or an upturn? I guess because like the bust had already happened. And so then from 2010 to 2015, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like it was very hard to get financing for anything. I remember driving around in 2010, and we were like looking at homes that we could buy, and there was a ridiculous amount of homes, for sale. And so that's kind of when I got into it. There was a lot of homes for sale, but there was no money out there to borrow, right? Even the banks had collapsed, everything had collapsed at that time. So from 2010 to 2015, how did I buy so many homes? I bought 100 homes. And what I did is I raised the money in order to purchase. I used either private money, I raised the money, or I did creative deal structures. I'm very blessed to have gotten into the industry between 2010 and 2015 because this is how I bought my first 10 facilities. Was I just learned how to raise that money, and I found people that were willing to give me money to invest in storage and not in storage, but also into like flipping homes and stuff. Now, in 2015, I got pregnant. And so that is how I transitioned into storage. I did not want to do flipping anymore, flipping houses, because I was just running around like a crazy person, and I wanted to get something more passive. So that's what I did. Is I started looking around for passive income, and I debated between buying like a portfolio of houses and managing those to getting into something else. I looked at multifamily, I looked at storage. And luckily, I ended up finding a facility that was about 20 minutes away from our house. I lived in Peachtree City, Georgia at that time, if anybody knows where that's at. And we bought our very first facility in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is about maybe 20 minutes away from our house. And it was good because I had like Lillian, my daughter, she was a baby, and we had closed on this facility, and I would be able to take her and go to the facility. And I was the one that was like sweeping out the units, picking up the trash, getting the tenants to move in and things like that. That was me. And I had Lillian with me at that time. And back in 2015, when people were buying properties and stuff, people were just transitioning into wanting to buy multifamily, but nobody was thinking about storage. And so what I would do is I would drive for storage. Okay. I went around to all the facilities, and I would just call the number right there on the sign. And I would just say like, hey, my name is Stacy, and I'm looking to buy a storage facility in the area. And I'm just wondering if you'd be interested in meeting me. I'm here at your facility now, or if you would be interested in just getting an offer on my property. And so that is how I bought my first 10 properties, as I drove for storage. And when I started teaching people how to invest in self-storage, I started teaching them in 2010, maybe not 2010, I'm sorry, 2020. in 2019, something like this. It's kind of when I started. And that's what I would do is tell people like, look, just start driving around and just talking to owners. And I promise there'll be an owner that would be willing to talk to you. Now, obviously in like a big metro area like Atlanta, like you're not going to drive up to a U-Haul, right? And like say, hey, would you be interested in getting an offer? But anything in a secondary or a tertiary market, a secondary market would be kind of like a bigger town that is not a suburb of a metro area. And a tertiary market is the country. So when I say secondary market, you would be thinking like Savannah, right? Or maybe Poole, or you'd be thinking like Valdosta or Columbus, like these kind of small towns that are in your state, but they're just not part of the metro area. And I never really went into like, suburbs, of big cities. Like I would kind of stay out more like in the secondary part or the tertiary part. So all of our facilities, I'm going to show you a map of them just so you have an idea of the first 10 facilities that I bought. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Where did I put this? Is that here? Storage notes? No, it's not it. I can't figure out how to do this. Here it is. Yeah. Yeah. So right here, right here is, you can come to this website if you want. This is our website with our facilities on it. Miss Lillian's right here, Miss Lillian Self Storage. We named our brand after our daughter. Her name is Lillian. Miss Lillian Self Storage. You can go to misslillians.com. Okay. And you can see here, I'm going to give you like kind of a history, but we lived in Peachtree City, and I told you I would drive for storage. So I literally drove, like, this is Fayetteville, here's Fairburn, here's this is Noonan, this is Franklin, and this is Warm Springs. All right. So I just drove around in this area. Notice I did not go up north into the Atlanta area. And just in fact, I went south because south is more secondary or tertiary. And then I would just drive around, and all these little tiny facilities, these are the ones that I would just like, I would just drive up, I would call the number, and I would be like, hey, I'd be interested in buying your storage facility. This is exactly what happened like right here on this Warm Springs facility. So this is the one I wanted to go over today. As we were just driving, I was just driving for storage, and I drove past this facility, and I just called the owner, and I just asked him if they'd be interested in like talking to me, meeting with me, getting an offer. And so this facility here, this is what I did, driving for storage. And you can still do this to today. Now you can't do it in like, metro areas, but you can go, if you're living in like a secondary market or in a tertiary market of your state, highly, highly recommend that you like just drive around, or you can virtually drive around. You can go on to like Google Maps. You can virtually drive around. Just search for storage facilities on Google Maps, and you can virtually do that. Okay. And so then I drove past this facility, and then I called the owner. This owner, her husband had just died, and she had inherited this property, and she did not want it at all. And in fact, most of her relatives had a unit, right? Like, because she lived in like Warm Springs. I don't know if you guys know where Warm Springs, Georgia is, but and it's kind of like, here it is. Yeah. So this is it right here. So this is very terse. No, this is not it. Sorry. This is it right here. Okay. And so you could see like her family all kind of lived in this area. Warm Springs is a very kind of like, it's a touristy area, but it's also like very country, and so I talked to her, and she was like, look, she's like, just tell me what you would be interested in giving me on this property, because ultimately, I just have relatives here. He's like, I've had like all the tenants that were here previously with my husband. She's like, I don't know who they are, and they're not paying really. Nobody, every once in a while I get somebody to pay, and that's it. So can I just get rid of this thing? Okay. So that's really what happened. So I want to say that if you want to find off-market properties and you are okay with buying in kind of these tertiary areas here, like, Alabama, you could go in all here, you could go through here, even Tallahassee and the Panhandle. For the most part, most countries tertiary anyways. And you just talk to the owner directly, and you just say, would you be interested in like getting an offer on your property? Okay. This is how I bought all these properties here. Okay, so and then Warm Springs, so I'm clicking on this. I'm going to just show you this website. And the reason I like to show my website is because I want you to know what you should be looking for when you buy a property. Do they have a website, first of all? And a lot of like tertiary market facilities don't have websites. It's getting a little bit better now, since COVID and everybody is, going online to do stuff and everything. But make sure they have a website, and then also look at what kind of promotion that they do, right? Always want to check what kind of promotion. Do your competitors have promotions, or what are they doing to get filled up? And then how does their website look? Is it some generic website that's like they haven't put any thought to like what they're doing? And, or is it something like they really are trying hard to get tenants into their property? What are they doing? And the ones that are trying hard, those are your competitors, okay? The ones that are just not doing anything at all, they're not going to be as much of a competitor as somebody that's like, either has a great website, they're getting Google reviews, they're they're updating their pricing, they're on top of talking to people and answering their questions and stuff like that. That is what you want to know. They have promotions, so it's important to look at their website in order to do your due diligence, because now the way that storage works is like, however good you are at getting phone calls, however good that you are as converting those phone calls, is as good as how your facility is going to be. And so all the marketing that is being done is super important. See, when I started back in the day, like I'm telling you, nobody did any marketing for storage, like rarely ever. Like you would put a sign up and then people drove by and called and that was it. And back in the day before 2020, there was no such thing as contactless storage, right? When COVID hit, that is what really kind of changed everything, and everything started going online. Now, because when I started, I used StorageNerds to manage our properties, and StorageNerds only had 3 people working for it at the time, and I could call up and it would be the same 3 people answering the phones, because I've been with them for 10 years now, or 10 15 since 2010. So no, sorry, since 2015, right? So 10 years. And so I used to be able to call up and then like I would know who was answering the phones. Now, they got the whole, like they just own everything. Storable owns everything now. But so I wanted you to just look at this website so you have a good idea of what a good website looks like. And I want you to be able to do a competitive analysis so that you know what your competitive advantage is. Super important, okay? And then this is the folder, this is the Google Drive folder, and this is everything that you need to know in order to decide if you want to buy a storage facility or not, okay? So you want to be able to know, you want to be able to get from the owner the occupancy report. Let's see if I can pull this up and we can see what it looks like. 2026. There's an occupancy report. Let's see what it looks like. I don't know. Let's see if I can open it. Okay, so here's the occupancy report, right? So you can see square footage, so the units, the sizes, but really what you can see is on a regular basis how much occupancy we're getting. So from the square footage, what is being rented, and how much money are we making for each size unit, right? And what's being occupied and what's not being occupied, right? And your economic occupancy is important too, right? So you can say 100, most people are paying, everybody always pays for this one, but we're having a hard time for this size getting paid or whatever, what I'm saying? So, and that's one thing with storage is you have like, maybe 5x5s or 5x10s or 10x10s or 10x20s. And one unit may be amazing in that area, and then like another unit may not be like doing well in that area. So it's important for you to understand stuff like this. But so you want to be able to come into the Google Drive. You want to be able to have a Google Drive folder, or you want to be able to get all this information from the owners so that you can make an educated decision on whether or not you want to buy this property. So occupancy is important. Rent roll is important. Like the general ledger basically shows you what your income is. Let me see if I can show you what this looks like. And if you want access to this folder, I'll show you how to get access to this so you can see what it looks like, okay? So you can see here that, like, you know, we have like the credit cards, right? This is for January. We had $1,685 come in for Visa, Discover, and then MasterCard. We had this much. Then we had some fees, $150 in fees, a convenience fee, which I think is auto pay, and then a late fee, and then we had insurance coming in, and then we had parking revenue, and we also had rental revenue. Okay, so you can see here how much money that we're making on a monthly basis. It's a really small facility, okay, so it doesn't make a lot of money, but you can see what the revenue is, okay? And that's what the general ledger does. Let's see what other kind of, when there's unit mix, there's a management summary. Let's see this one. I'll show you what this looks like. This is just for January, but let's, okay, so you can see here in January, it's just exactly what the general ledger says. We made $2,444. It's 63% economic occupancy. So economic occupancy means that you know, out of everybody that has units, who's paying and who's not paying, right? You want to have you want to have physical occupancy, which is like, out of 100 units, it's filled up. But physical occupancy is different from economic occupancy, because economic occupancy is who's actually paying. You could be filled up and nobody's paying. Our very first facility that we bought in Fayetteville, I talked to the owner, and I was like, he's like, oh no, we're filled up. You know, we're totally filled up, right? And he had 60, it was like 60 units or 65 units. And it was like, he was only making $2,000 out of 60 units. And I asked him, I said, how can you be filled up, but you're only making $2,000 a month? That doesn't make sense. He's like, oh no, we're filled up, but nobody's paying, right? So that's physical occupancy versus economic occupancy, right? Now, in the wintertime, right, like a lot of people struggle. And actually, last year, a lot of people struggled, all right? And people are still struggling right now. We all know that the economy's down and stuff. So ultimately, you have to weigh, like, what is the market like? What is the economy like? And what prices can you charge that will actually keep people in and be able to have them to be able to afford to stay into their unit, right? This is a big game that you're playing. This is really the self-storage game. And I saw an email that I just got today from Yardi. I don't know if you guys know Yardi, but Yardi does like data, like commercial data is what they do. And basically the email said, like, you know, storage occupancy is down, and also storage prices is down, right? And when I talk to a lot of owners, I mean, they're hoping for like 2020 to 2024 pricing on their facility, I mean, on their units and stuff, but I'm going to tell you that it's not like that anymore, okay? What people can afford is like half of what they used to be able to afford, you know, a couple of years ago. And so you got to make sure that you keep that in mind when you're running your numbers and looking at your deals. Like, gone are the days that people can afford $100 a month for a 10 by 10. On average, I would say $60 to $70 a month. I don't know what the nationwide price per square foot is, but I'm going to tell you it's not high anymore. Okay, so keep that in mind when you look at properties. And so anyway, so then you have like, so what I wanted to say was that this folder, this Google Drive folder, what you see here, all these different types of the documents that you see, these are the documents that you need in order to get a good idea of what the property looks like, photos, where it's located, you know, and how much it's making. This is what our property looks like, the Warm Springs, Georgia property. And let's see. And then what it offers, right? And what it looks like, you know, this is basically what it looks like. So this is, I think it has like 50 or 60 units. I can't remember. It's like kind of smaller. And so, you know, this is where it's at in Google Maps. You're seeing that. This is what it looks like from afar. And let's see what else. Demographics. See, the town is super small. The town only 443 people. in it. We're typically around 75 to 80% full on this thing, maybe 85. We've been higher than that, like, in the good old days. But now I think between 75 and 85% is kind of where we're at. And then in the winter, it drops down to maybe like 65%, something like this, and we have this is a little tiny town. Now, the area has quite a few people within like a 10-mile radius. I think there's quite a few people. Yeah, see, there's 15,000 people within a 10-mile radius. Just that town itself is just one of those little tiny towns. This is a very like kind of spread out town is what it is, spread out area. So let's see what else. And this is a little tiny facility here. The person that lives right here, he mows the lawn. This guy, he comes over and he mows the lawn. He's been mowing the lawn for like the past 5 years. Okay. And he keeps an eye on the property for us and stuff. Cause we only go to this property like once a quarter. Okay. This property takes hardly any effort at all. Okay. And so this, and so, then you think about that too, like depending on what you buy what you pay for the property, how much effort is it going to call, and what can you keep it, what occupancy can you keep it at? Can I keep it at 70%? Can I keep it at 80%? And the value of the property will be worth this if I want to try to sell it later. Right. And how much time and effort we have. We have cameras, so we can just look in and just see this property and, just keep an eye on it. And then also this person here keeps an eye on it for us. So. Okay, so if you want to get access to this folder, all right, then what you need to do is just go to, I don't think I put it here. It's American SSMGT. Yeah, so it's AmericanSSMGT.com /for sale. We'll put this into the comments, okay, on this post. American SSMGT, so American Self-Storage Management.com /for sale is what it looks like, okay? And see right here, this is what it looks like. So if you want access to this folder, all you have to do is get this to this page. And these are all my storage facilities that I'm trying to sell right now. We're trying to get rid of the Miscellaneous brand, right? We're getting rid of that. And I'm going to take all this money that I make and I'm going to partner with my students, okay? So I own StorageNerds. This is StorageNerds. If you want to go to StorageNerds.com, I have the Academy, which is an online education platform where you can learn how to invest in self-storage, or you can join Acquisitions. Acquisitions is where we will find you a property to buy anywhere in the country, any size, any price, anywhere you want. If you want us to just find you a property, apply for Acquisitions. If you want to do it on yourself, go to Academy. Academy is $100 a month for you to get in and learn how to do this, okay? So that is what I wanted to show you today. And again, if you want access to any of the facilities, we've got facilities all over the state of Georgia for sale. If you want to get access to any of these, you just come in and you just ask for more info here on this website. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out is that all these facilities are pre-approved, right? I already talked to my lender. They've already looked at all the numbers, the P&L, my tax returns, everything is pre-approved. So if you want a facility to buy, this is going to be the easiest way. I'll just introduce you to my lender and you can just talk to them, okay? So that is what I wanted to show you today, my Warm Springs facility. And I found it by driving for storage, just calling owners up and then seeing if they want to get an offer. And then we stabilized the property, cleaned it up, stabilized it, get it mostly full. And now we're looking to sell it and move on to a bigger property, okay? And if you want to get your foot in the door, this is a perfect, all the facilities that I have are kind of smaller. These are very good, perfect. I want to learn how to do this. I can afford this deals here, okay? Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next case study. I do 1 or 2 of these a week, so just keep following me and I will see you at the next one, okay? Take care.